everybody. Happy Saturday to you. I hope you are having a great Saturday and a great weekend. My name is Don Terrell, and I want to welcome you to another amazing episode of The Color of Motion, where I like to say stories come in all shades. And I highlight people of color and diverse backgrounds in the industry of motion graphics, animation, visual effects, cartoons, and comics. This space that I'm crazy about and I love. So I want to welcome you. Thank you so much for joining us. You know the drill. Jump in. Say hello. We're already getting some people coming in. Appreciate you, Northern Wind. I know you're going to be excited about the episode. I hope you enjoy it. I appreciate you tuning in. My man, Mr. Wayne Carnegie. Can't wait to have you back on, brother, for sure. Appreciate you joining. Mr. Paul Berry, thank you so much for tuning in as well. This is going to be an amazing episode. Like I said, I've been looking forward to this for a while, for sure. What's up, my brother there? What is up? As you know, make sure that you hop on over to the Facebook group. Get plugged in. We want you to be a part of the community. Facebook.com/groups/The Color of Motion. It's a fun place. We have engaging conversations, share industry news, and just have all around fun. It's growing, so I definitely, like I said, want you to be a part of the community for sure. Like I said, I want to welcome, like I said, everybody to the show. Like I said, I'm always trying to make this the most fun, most engaging show that I can. Make sure you comment because your feedback just makes the show that much more better. So appreciate everybody that's tuning in there. Miss Stephanie Lambert, hey, yeah, Demille, AAU classmate. I appreciate you supporting your classmate. That is amazing. Mr. Nathaniel, appreciate you tuning in for sure. Even Mr. Downtown with the Meal. He he commented on himself there. I can appreciate that for sure. Greetings from London, across the pond, our UK brethren. Appreciate you, Nathaniel, tuning in for sure. Miss Melissa says hello as well. Like I said, we're always trying new things here and trying to make the experience the best experience we can make it for you guys and gals, and bringing you the best people that I can connect with, really having a deep discussion about diversity and just inclusion in the industry, and just all around great information for sure. I always like to show the back end of, how I put the show together and everything. It's kind of a messy desk, but this is kind of how I work to bring this show to you every week. And so, like I said, just want to share that with you. Little housekeeping before we go, before we get into it. Definitely want to thank our sponsor, DG Graphics. All the graphics, animations, overlays you see is due in large part from them. So if you're a business or brand looking to take your brand to the next level or start a live stream show, definitely reach out to them. They can make it amazing. DG Graphics, appreciate them being a sponsor for sure. Also, like I said, I definitely want to hear from you, so you can connect with me on all my social channels here. I definitely want to hear from you. Let me know what you think of the show, any guests that you may want me to try and get on, and just be engaged with me. So connect with me on my channels there. Like I said, we do broadcast to live to YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. But I always kind of highly encourage people to jump on over to the YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the bell notification, give a thumbs up, comment, because that definitely helps the channel as well. And there you can check out all the other past great episodes that we've had. We've had some amazing guests on the show, so you're able to check out all the episodes from there, you know? So make sure you get plugged in as well, you know? Like I said, we are having a lot of great engagement. Appreciate that. Mr. Dwayne Coleman, appreciate you tuning in for sure. Mr. Renix Graham the Third, glad to tune in. I'm excited for. He's excited for you, my brother. He is excited. I am too. So we're getting ready to hop into this for sure. So I guess we can get rocking and rolling. We are live and rocking and rolling on all the channels, getting some great engagement. So what do you say we get this show on the road here? My next guest is from Birmingham, Alabama, just a short little distance from where my family is from. And he really loves 3D animation, particularly 3D character animation. While he has been drawing since he was a kid, his love for 3D animation came much later in life. When he watched the Pixar movie Cars, and he would see the Geico Gecko commercials. They're still doing those, I think. Geico Gecko commercials. He knew at that time it was something that he wanted to do professionally. He went to school to pursue a degree in animation and visual effects from the Academy of Art University in San Francisco, and he graduated in 2020. He loves all types of animation, but what he enjoys most is the type of animation you see in cutscenes in video games like Metal Gear Solid and Spiderman, as well as the animation you see in feature films such as Marvel's Avengers, Star Wars, Ready Player One, and Planet of the Apes, just to name a few. It was also great to, it's also, he thinks, is great to find others to network with who are either on the same journey as he is, which we're going to dive into a lot, or those who have already made it in the industry. He truly believes with God on his side, he will get the opportunity soon, and I know he will. Everybody, please help me welcome my very special guest and friend, Mr. Demille Hunt. Mr. Demille.
That was an awesome intro. Yes.
I tell you, we like to bring our guests on in style, make them the superstars that they are. Thank you so much for joining me today. Like I said, we're getting a lot of engagement here, Mr. Northern Wind. Northern Wind Comics would love to come on your channel. I'll have to check out, connect with you on that for sure, Mr. Northern Wind. Mr. Matthew, appreciate you, brothers, joining in. Super awesome guest that I had on. Looking forward to having him back on as well. Mr. Fred Jemison, my first time on your show. I hope you enjoy it. Make sure that you, like I said, get connected into the YouTube channel. Check out all the other past great episodes that we've had. I'm sure you will love them for sure. Mr. Wayne, big ups to Demille. Like I said, been super looking forward to this, Demille. Like I said, we connected, some time ago and have built a good friendship over the time, and just enjoy your work, which we are going to take a look at some of Demille's work and check it out. But I want to start by asking you, like I said, you started out, you said animation came to you a little later in life. What was it about, what is it about animation that you really love?
Well, I think that, first, let me first say it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. And I thank you for having me on the show. I've enjoyed I watch your show every week. I love the guests on here. Matthew, made a connection with him. He's a really good brother in
Super
Nigeria.
talented.
And
Yes.
yeah, just some very inspiring guests. So I'm really, really happy to be here. So thank you for having me. So with animation, it's just one of those things. Being a creator, I think that's where it all starts. Because when you're a creator, things like animation just naturally seem inspiring to you. And so for me, when I look at animation, it's just more or less, the thing that comes to my mind is, well, how do they do this? How do they make something that is so simple appear to be so real? And that's where, the Geico Gecko commercials came in, because I look at that little lizard, and it's like you have this CG character that is CG, computer generated, but then he's in a real world environment, like, live action.
Yeah.
And when you see that, it's just so fascinating, and I look at all of just how professional artists, how professional animators put together what they do, whether it be, you know, um, motion capture
Yeah.
with what you see in like Planet of the Apes, whether it's 3D animation, like what you see in movies like Pixar's Cars, or even high-end movies like Pacific Rim,
Yeah. Yeah.
what they do in Black Panther, seeing that process. And I'm a student of the game in the sense that I go back and I look at the behind the scenes making of all of those movies. And I
Yeah.
just sit there and I'm just in awe of how they do that. And when they do it, it inspires me, because I believe I can do that too. I want to learn how they do that. So that's what gets me going, seeing how they do their thing. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna figure out how to do that too.
Yeah, I think I agree. It's such an amazing thing, which I'm like you as well. I always love the behind the scenes when I get a DVD or something like that. I'm always checking out the behind the scenes and things like that. But um, yeah, it's just, and I think a lot of people that aren't in the industry, like I said, they see the end result, but they don't see the time and the work that really goes into doing like just the simplest of things in animation and putting it together. It's a lot of work.
Very true. I think that, and this is not to disrespect anybody who's not in animation, but I think the common logic is that for people outside of the industry, um, that that look at what we do, they think, there's this meme where you see somebody push a button and they're
Yeah.
supposed to be done. And it's no, that is not the no. There is so much time and effort that goes into
Yeah.
creating, just 10 seconds of animation. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, with the project that you're going to show that I worked on, I mean, there were times where literally I'll never forget. And I'll just tell this real quick story. I won't be long, but
No, no.
there was one night, I was working on that project, and I'm the kind of person where when I'm working on something, I don't want to go to bed with that unresolved. So for me, it's like, okay, I'm not going to bed until this is done. So I started a certain shot that I was working on, maybe around, I don't know, 9 o'clock or something like that, with the mindset that I'm going to work to a certain point and I'm going to go ahead and finish for the night. Well, I got to this certain part where I got stuck, and I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm not going to bed until this is fixed. So next thing I know, I work through it and I get it done. I'm like, okay, good. We got past that. And then there was another issue. And so this other issue took a little bit longer. And I just said, okay, I'm not going to bed with this, waking up, seeing this problem in the morning. And so next thing I know, now I did fix the problem, but next thing I know, it was 5 a.m. So, now the lesson that I learned from that is it's okay to step away for a while. It's
Yeah.
okay to go play a video game,
Yeah.
go for a
Yeah.
walk,
And I think
whatever
that
the case may
helps.
be.
I think
Yeah,
that
it
really helps a
does.
person. It gives you a clear perspective of when we're staring at something just constantly, 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 and trying to figure it out.
hmm hmm And so, yeah, there is so much value in just taking a break, even if it's 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. And I just think for me, it's just that I don't like leaving stuff because when it's undone, it's like festering in my mind. You still got to do this. You still got to do this. And I like to try to leave things as resolved as much as possible. So, you know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
I'm curious, um, how how much were your parents really involved in encouraging you in your passion for what you wanted to do?
Well, my mom, God rest her soul, if she could see what I was doing
Wow.
today, she would
Uh,
really, really be proud. When I was a kid, she was very supportive of what I did in terms of art. She tried to get me enrolled in a school here in where I live in Birmingham called the Alabama School of Fine Arts. And it was an elementary school for kids that were really, really talented with drawing and different types of art. And at that time, while I was drawing, the thing about going to, you got to treat that like you're going to an interview. So when you're going to the academy, excuse me, the Alabama School of Fine Arts, you have to present your work in a portfolio and it
yeah.
needs to be neat and organized. And I was just a kid, so I didn't really have all of that stuff figured out. So I didn't get into the school, but decades later, I was able to get into the Academy of Art University in San Francisco. So that worked out, a little bit later. But yeah, my mom was very, very supportive of anything that I did. And if she could see the stuff that I was doing today, it would blow her mind. It
Yeah.
would.
Awesome. Awesome. No, definitely for sure. Again, appreciate everybody that's just jumping in, and we're having a fun conversation with my man Demille here, talking about animation and visual effects. Now, you took visual effects as well, and kind of learned that as well. Is there one you kind of like over the other, or for you it's just about the creation process, whatever it is that it may be, whether visual effects or 3D animations?
Yeah. So the thing is, when I was in school at Academy of Art University in San Francisco, the degree that I graduated with, it was animation and visual effects. So we did some visual effects work, but my focus has always been 3D character animation. So I
Yeah,
would take like a rig, and make that character come to life
yeah,
make the character look believable. But now that being said, visual effects is really cool. And I think that in a lot of the shots or the work that you do, especially if it's like action related animation, you want to have those visual effects in there. So I say all that to say that my focus has been solely on 3D character animation, bringing characters to life. And then I know just a little bit about the visual effects side.
yeah, to help
But
you.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So
Hmm.
what was your decision making factor on going to that specific school? Because obviously we're starting to see a lot of great schools cropping up, like Noman, that are just cranking out some super awesome talented people and getting you just crazy prepared for going into the industry. Animation Mentor, just so many schools now, and whether it be in person or online, are starting to crop up. What was your decision for picking that particular school, and what do you think of the ones that you're seeing now that are starting to come up?
Well, that's a real interesting question, Don, because, I have a short story to tell about that as well. When I started my animation journey in terms of education, I started off at a school here in Birmingham called the University of Alabama at Birmingham. It's an outstanding school. However, it is not a school that you want to go to for animation. And I was
Yeah,
still finding myself at that time. So when I enrolled there, I enrolled at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, thinking that they had an animation program. When actuality, all they really had was graphic design. So once I found that out, I just stayed there for a quarter to get the credits, and then I was out. And so then I was like, okay, so I need to find a school that has a focus on character animation because that's what I really wanted to be into. And so I started doing my research. And then to add another layer to that, I needed to make sure that I was going to a school that my employer would reimburse me for,
Mm,
because you
yeah.
know, a lot of those schools are very, very expensive. So I started doing my research. I looked at Full Sail University, which is, I
Yeah.
believe, they're in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah. They're
And
pretty
then,
pricey.
yeah, they're pricey. And you know what? I couldn't get, there was something with the accreditation that, my employer wouldn't accept.
Yeah.
And so I looked at SCAD, and, but I looked at Academy of Art University in San Francisco, and they were, accredited by the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. And that lined up right with my employer. So I was able to, you know, choose them, and my employer was able to pay that. As long as I made really good grades, I could get the tuition reimbursement at the
Yeah.
end of the quarter. And it worked out. It worked out really well. It worked out well. And while I was there at Academy of Art University, I had some really good experiences. I had an opportunity to go to a Pixar animation studios and Industrial Light and Magic, and all of that was programs that the school sponsored for the online students. So if you were an
Yeah.
online student going to that school and you were in animation, you had the opportunity to go tour those
Yeah.
studios, and it was an amazing experience being able to do that.
Yeah, yeah. So, would you say that, because that kind of led into my next question? What do you feel like was the biggest thing you pulled from that school, or got out of that school? Was it the ability to actually go to these studios? Was it the relationships with other students? What do you feel like was the kind of the cherry on top of the cake for going?
You know, I would definitely say that it was a very interesting experience because, number one, I live in Birmingham. The school is physically in San Francisco, so
Yeah,
I was 100% online.
online.
So that's a very unique experience within itself. However, there are some instructors that I had at that school. I don't know if she's watching right now. Kristen Miller. She was an amazing instructor. She taught me analysis of form. That's where you're drawing in like the five value systems, where the shadow moves over to light gradually. I learned a lot of that from her. And so why am I mentioning that is because we're still friends today. We're Facebook friends. I've
Yeah,
met her a couple of times, going there whenever I would come there, and we had lunch, and she's such
yeah,
an excellent teacher and a friend as well. And then some of the other connections that I've made, Stephanie Lambert, she's watching now. We shared a few classes together, and we've done a few things when I would come out there to, I want to say we went to, if not Pixar, it may have been ILM together, but
hmm,
you really form a lot of really good relationships when you get a chance to do the online thing, because you all are kind of lumped in together,
yeah, yeah,
and so I would definitely say some of the relationships there's with the instructors. There's two instructors that I really have really close relationships with today that I still show my work to.
yeah,
And then some of the, like I said, some of the classmates,
yeah,
there are like, I want to say there's at least five people that I'm still connected to since I graduated. And
yeah.
so having those relationships really helped. It was expensive. I'm not going to lie to you. It was very expensive. I mean, one class is like $3,000. So don't get it
Yikes.
twisted. It was
Yeah.
not something that was cheap. It was very expensive, but
Well, and I guess to that, well, and Stephanie did reply ILM. I guess that was where
mm-hmm.
y'all went.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
which I think kind of goes into you know the some of the online schools. It's not quite as expensive as if you had to go there in person. Pay for just getting out there, pay for campus and all that type of stuff. So, do you feel like, um, and I guess it's different for every person. Some need the in person, kind of on campus type of experience. Some can do well, um, with the online experience. Do you think that is really one of the beneficial things for a lot of these online courses and um, schools that are starting to come up now?
I think for those people that are very self-motivated, I think it's great. Because the thing about it is, if you're like me, I mean, it's just me here. I'm my own marketing machine. I'm my own, motivating entity. So when it was time to do homework, you know, you're on, I mean, you have that connection with your teacher through, of course, the internet,
Yeah,
but ultimately it's up to you to be self-motivated to get the work done. So
yeah,
if you're not a real self-motivated person, it's going to be hard because you're not in that traditional classroom setting where you can just, after the class is done, you can go to the teacher and say, hey, I got a question about this. You have to do a little more work
yeah,
with reaching out, through email and things like that.
yeah,
So it's like you got to really be self-motivated to do
yeah,
like 100% online. You
yeah,
definitely do.
yeah. And I think to your point a minute ago, relationships and community is such a big thing. I found out this industry really is a small industry, and people tend to know each other or have
Hmm.
heard of each other, gone to school with each other, work with each other, which is why a lot of people kind of move around from place to place because they've built relationships with people that have gotten jobs there and this and that. So it really is key um, to going far in this industry, building really strong relationships. Um, for you, if you had to kind of distill it down, what do you feel it takes to for the quality that it takes to be an animator and really be in this industry?
That's an excellent question. And what's funny is that, I went for a walk this morning, and a lot of times when I go for walks, I just think internally, and I've got some things coming up, really soon that I'm preparing for. And so, it's interesting that you asked that because I was thinking about that very question this morning, and I didn't even know you were going to ask that. So, what I would say, to be an animator, there's a different mix of things that you got to have. First of all, I would definitely say one of the critical things is observation, because when you're animating, a lot of times you're animating based on reference footage. It could be you acting out a scene. It could be a scene that's already been shot. Like maybe it's a scene from a movie, and maybe you're having to, emulate from that. So you want to take what you see in front of you and basically, use that as a reference to do your own animation on. Also, with that, you have to really think about improvisation as well, because when you're an animator, a lot of times what you don't want to do is necessarily take a reference and just copy it to a T. You want to put your own spin and your own take on it. So being able to really improvise and say, okay, what can I take from this animation, this reference that I'm looking at? How can I make this my own? So you're taking something that either someone has already given you. In most cases, probably something that someone has already given you, and you're improvising from that. You need to really have a sense of acting, because animation is acting. The subtle nuances that a person does with their head movement, facial expressions, that's important. One of the biggest things that I did not mention earlier was that it's so important as an animator to really understand the human body. So, anatomy, knowing the bony structures, knowing the limitations of what the body can do when you're animating. So, you know what looks believable and what doesn't. Knowing the 12 principles of animation is very important as well, because that's what's going to really help make it look believable. So it's a lot that goes into it. That sounds like a lot, but really the truth is the more you get into it,
Yeah,
the more you work through it and the more you practice, eventually it all starts to come to you.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
And to that point, do you shoot your own reference? Because I always find it really fascinating when I see uh, animators and the scenes that they've done, and up juxtaposed to the reference that they shoot of themselves doing it. I know when I had Aire on, he was showing a lot of the I think I did show his reference video that he used when he did Spider-Man.
I saw that. Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you shoot like reference shots of your own of yourself doing animation, or how is your process for when you sit down to do animation?
Well, like I'll give you an example. Like with the project that I just completed, the Saharan Defender, there was a couple of shots that I did from that where I actually acted out the scene myself. Um, Most of what I did was from reference, from inspiration from something else. Because to be honest with you, and the audience, when they see it, and the people that have already seen it, they'll know that there's no way that I could physically do some of that stuff that's happening in there.
Not unless you had
So
somebody with you doing it.
exactly,
It did
either
that.
that
Yeah.
or I just hired these really talented acrobatic
Yeah.
athletes that
Yeah.
could perform. So yeah, so but to answer your question, there have been a lot of times I've kind of acted out my own scenes, but then a lot of times I'll just use reference. But the biggest thing, like I said earlier, is if I use that reference, I'm saying, hey, how can I make this my own? Because I don't want to just copy exactly what they did.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can copy a little bit, but I don't want to just copy the whole thing. I want to take some of it and put my own take to it, my own flavor to it, my own spin, and so that's what I try to do. But yeah, I do. So to answer your question, yeah, I
Yeah.
do some of my own reference too.
Yeah. Again, everybody that's just joining us, we're having a great conversation. We're getting some awesome engagement. Appreciate that. Make sure you keep it coming, Miss Kristen. I couldn't comment before because for some reason my iPad wasn't letting me comment. Of course, I'm watching Demille. So proud of you. She must be a classmate or a friend.
That's actually my teacher that I was telling you
Oh
about. Yeah,
yes,
she
Christy.
is an awesome, yeah. She was one of the first instructors that I had when I started at Academy of Art University. And I mean, you can tell people that really love to teach.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I mean, she goes the extra mile, especially for the people that you can tell really want to learn.
yeah.
She will go the extra mile and really explain in detail what you need to work on. And it's and teachers like that really help define, I think, help you define who you are as an
Oh
artist.
no,
Hmm.
most definitely. And so, Kristen, big ups to you because teachers are top notch. I think they need to get paid so much more because they help shape the future for sure. But it definitely goes a long way when you have somebody because teaching's not easy, and really explaining something to somebody that they get it and really understand it and are passionate about it, it really is a gift. So big thanks to you, Miss Miller. Appreciate you supporting your friend and student for sure. And we're getting ready to take a look at Demille's work here before we press on, for sure. So everybody, let's check it out. Such amazing work, man. Like I said, I got so many questions on you. Like I said, just one, it's just phenomenal work for one individual to do. Like I said,
Thank you.
it's tough enough when you got a studio working behind you doing work, but when one person sits down and puts together a long form animation, it's definitely a lot of work. Um, I see you got a keyboard there with you. Are you into a little bit of the music as well, or were you, like I said, for you, with obviously you love the character animating, but is it part of the whole process of putting it together? Do you enjoy, or do you really would rather focus on just the character animating?
Well, let me say this. I'm just going to throw a disclaimer out there. I am not a professional musician. So let me just put that out there first. Now, that being said, when that animation played, there's a part where the main character, I call her Titiana, um, when she's standing with the silhouette and the sun is setting,
Yeah,
that drum intro where it goes do 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 do.
yeah,
That I did do. I did that part, and I wanted to do that because it reminded me. Well, I wanted the audience to really feel a connection. Like this looks like something that you would see. This feels like Africa. That was the whole goal. I wanted it to feel African, and I remember in Black Panther there was a drum that was used called the djembe drum, and it sounds very, very similar to that. Now, on my keyboard, I couldn't find that. The sound that you heard was the closest thing that I could get to the actual djembe drum. But so I say all that to say that when it comes to music, I would love to get to a place to where I can do the entire soundtrack. And one day, maybe I'll get to that point. But with my keyboard, it's more or less something that I do, to kind of de-stress, when I'm not animating or anything like that, because I'm not, I don't think I'm quite as good with playing music as I am, anime. But I'm learning some things.
yeah,
There's some things like I know how to play. You remember the classic Incredible Hulk
yeah,
theme?
yeah, yeah,
Do do do
yeah, yeah,
do
yeah,
do do.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now that I can play that pretty good. I can play that pretty good, but other stuff is still kind of coming to
Uh,
me.
well, I think it helps,
Hmm.
like I said, in the whole creation process. Does that also pertain to modeling as well and the texturing, or were you just okay? You had somebody else do the modeling and texturing, and then just you went dove into the character animation.
So with those models, the good thing about it is now I've done some modeling in the past. I did a model one time where way even before I started at Academy of Art University, um, before I think I almost want to say when I first started off with Blender,
Mm-hmm.
I was playing around with building models, and so the movie Cars, they have Lightning McQueen, and
Yeah.
so not even knowing what I was doing, I just started modeling, and so I built a model off of Lightning McQueen for the first time, and had no idea, but it turned out pretty good. But with this particular project, it was a blessing because those characters were already rigged, they were already modeled, so all I had to do was bring them to life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, one thing that I will say that was a challenge was I originally wanted to have two African warriors, but I could not find, I couldn't find, I found the woman who was, I think she is so beautiful, but I couldn't find an African counterpart for her to fight against. I couldn't find one that I liked.
Yeah.
So I ended up using like a cyborg ninja. Actually, for my video game lovers, who go way back to games like Metal Gear Solid, that cyborg is actually Gray Fox from Metal Gear Solid. I was able to find a free rig, and I was like, you know what? This may actually work.
Yeah.
And so I think it turned out well using that character in place. I wanted to have two
Yeah.
African warriors, but
I think it came out amazingly well. What was the genesis for Saharan, Defender? What, why that idea, and how did you come across that idea?
I'm so glad that you asked that question because this now I get to do a deep dive into my own work. And so anybody who really knows me, who follows me on Facebook, who follows me on Instagram, you know that I absolutely love sunsets. I love sunsets are the most sunsets and sunrises to me are the most beautiful things to witness. And I love, absolutely love, just taking, sometimes I'll be driving and if it's at a certain time of the day, the sun is just right, I'll take a picture of it. And so I knew that when I created this piece, I wanted to create something that reflected a sunset. And then I was thinking to myself, what would be cooler than that is to have two characters fighting on a cliff at sunset. And then to take it a step further, I want to have this animation piece to be at sunset on a cliff in Africa. And then to take it a step further, then I said I wanted to say, okay, I want it to be at sunset on a cliff in Africa in the Sahara Desert in northern Africa. So I had to do a little bit of research because I've heard the term sub-Saharan and I didn't
Yeah.
really knew what that meant. And so when I found out what sub-Saharan meant the region of Africa that is below the Saharan region. So when you think about the Saharan region of Africa, you're thinking about Egypt, you're thinking about Cairo, all of that northern area where the pyramids are,
Yeah.
and everything south is sub-Saharan. So I was like, okay, so we got the setting. Now we need a title because I knew that the protagonist of this, I wanted to be, Titiana is who I'll call her. And I knew that I wanted her to really be the victor, to be the powerful person in this piece. So I started just playing around with names, and I was playing around with names like I forgot some of the names, but eventually I came up with the Saharan Defender. And then when I looked at the font, I wanted the font to kind of reflect, the font. I wanted the font to be very similar to the font that was used in Black Panther because I
Yeah.
love that
That's
style.
what I thought when I saw it. I said, man, this looks really close to Black Panther and stuff. So it
Mm-hmm.
really had that African feel to
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so another thing that, because I love sunsets, and now I'm going to get real geeky and real nerdy about this. So in Maya allows you to use a spotlight, right? So there's different kind of lights in Maya that you can use. You can use an area light, you can use a directional light, you can use a spotlight. So what I did was I used a spotlight in Maya, and there's properties in Maya that allow you to use different properties. Like you can add, what is it called? There's a fog. It's called
Oh,
artificial. It's artificial fog.
yeah.
And then you can also add other properties like volumetric lighting and,
Yeah. Volumetric.
volumetric shadows. And so what that does is, how sometimes you see a picture of a sunset and you see those sun rays kind of, landing
Yeah.
down on the surface.
Yeah.
That's what that volumetric lighting does in Maya. It gives you those views, those sun rays. And so I was like, that would be a really good way to show off the beauty of a sunset is having that volumetric lighting and that atmospheric fog. That's what I was trying to say a few
Atmosphere. Yeah.
moments ago. Atmospheric fog, volumetric lighting. It really makes those sun rays just really just beam down in a brilliant, beautiful way. And it really made that piece really shine. The inspiration from those pieces came from a few different places. So let's see. I acted out the shot where she kind of turns around and does the double take. I did that part myself. Um, and then the other pieces came from inspiration from the Clone Wars. I got it from there. There's a scene where a video game called Metal Gear Solid Rising with Raiden. Some of the gamers may know what I'm talking. I'm getting real nerdy here, so hey,
They're
just bear
gonna
with
love
me.
it.
Yeah. So Metal Gear Solid Rising with Raiden, I took one of the shots from there to make the shot where she, he's falling and she kind of goes like this to kind of cut him, and you see the sparks come out. So that came from there, and I also took some inspiration from Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. And there's a scene in the original Spider-Man movie where I want to say it's Peter B. Parker. He does a leg sweep of Miles Morales, and Miles Morales goes into the air. And I was thinking, well, how could I take this and really kind of put my own spin on it? And so I was thinking, well, why not have that camera rotating around him, around Titiana while she's doing that leg sweep? And that makes it more dynamic. That makes that shot look more powerful, and have him just kind of sweeping up, being lifted off in the air, and it just I feel like it turned out really, really well.
Yeah, yeah.
So as you can tell, I love talking about this.
Hey, I
What
love
I'm gonna
talking
do,
about it too. That's why I
yeah.
was doing this show. And to that point, do you which I guess I have two questions in kind of this. One,
Mhm.
the first one is do you also do your storyboarding or at least quick sketch out of how the shots and scenes are going to look before you start animating? Do you go through that process as well, or
Now honestly, that would, if I didn't have a reference, that would probably be something that I would do. What my process is when I'm creating an animation, if I know that I'm using a reference, I'm looking at the keys, what's called the golden keys or the passing keys, or most people may know them as in betweens and main keys that you use. So, but now, so in everything that I did with this project, I did not storyboard it. I could have, but I didn't really feel like I needed to because I already had real good solid reference. But what I had to do was definitely define the points in each shot that was going to be my beginning point in the shot, my middle point in the shot, and how I wanted the shot to end. So I use what's called a pose to pose method in animation. So, but now there have been times where I have storyboarded before, but with this particular piece, I did not storyboard it because I felt like the reference was good enough where I really didn't have to. But now, if I wanted to improvise it even further from the reference, then I probably would have storyboarded it some more. But I felt like the improvisation that I did was good enough where I didn't really have to go and storyboard something else completely.
yeah? And I only say that because I think you know, at least for me, when I'm thinking storyboards, especially if you're animating and moving the camera around in different shots and different locations, how would I want that to look? Would I want a close up shot? Would
Hmm.
I want a pan around shot or that type of shot? Which I'm pretty sure, you know, going to Pixar, which I love watching. Like I said, when I look at their little quick little sketch storyboard stuff, it really does. And my second question is, do you think one a lot of people or a lot of animators or especially new ones don't spend the time doing the research on, like you said, sub-Saharan and just really getting an understanding of what they're wanting to animate. They're just, so excited about jumping in, animating, or creating something that they don't really spend as much time as they would. Because like I said, I know that's a big thing, especially like with Pixar. They'll dive into the smallest of details of what they're
Definitely.
trying to animate. And I know I was watching A Bug's Life, which I love.
Hmm.
And their thing that they were really trying to capture was the luminosity that comes through, plants when, especially at that level. So they took a little camera and went through the grass to really see how the light works with, shining down. Do you feel like that's a thing that a lot of people, a lot of young animators may miss doing the research behind the shots that you want to do in the animation that you want to do.
I can see that being the case. I haven't personally witnessed it myself, but I can see how a lot of young animators may look at, people that are really, really good. I'm talking about, because I'm on Instagram all the time and I see some people doing some amazing, amazing work. And I think it's so easy to kind of get seduced by that and
Yeah.
see that, wow, this is so impressive, this is amazing. But you also have to look at the finer points of it as well. The subtleties that you mentioned just a little while ago about just like what you would see in a bug's life. I mean, you can learn so much about how to approach a project by looking at those behind the scenes, the making of how they do. It's crazy how much research and detail they take to bring a lot of this stuff to light. Sometimes they'll go to a place.
Yeah.
Like I know with cars, I want to say with cars, they went to this, that famous Route
Yeah,
66,
Route 66. Yeah, they went to Route
hmm
66
and they
as
took
well.
pictures and got inspiration and all
Yeah,
that stuff. And
yeah,
yeah, so I think it's important to really do that. Just take the time to do the research, and then that kind of helps build your foundation for what
yeah,
will be a really good looking
yeah.
project.
And I think if you
Mhm.
even go back, because I used to, like I said, love watching Disney. I think even if you go back to some of the older Disney, especially like when Walt Disney was showing the behind the scenes and stuff, they brought in animals when they were doing live animals that the animators would draw and sketch to get the movement, the body, the mass, and everything down. So I think doing that research so adds to the realism of the animation that you do, even if it's a cartoony animation. And it's funny because I love watching. I don't know if you follow him or seen any of his um, sessions that he does. Aaron Blaze, animator. He used to animate from Disney, but he did like Big Bear and stuff. But he does a lot of animal style, animations, and he just says that's the big thing. You have to have that live reference and live knowledge of what it is you're doing, even if you're going to stretch reality with some of the cartoony stuff. Um, so I always enjoyed that myself. Um, for you, what was the biggest challenge doing that project that really took some work getting you through?
One of the biggest challenges, I think, with this particular project, so, there's two characters. One is the African warrior who I call Titiana, and the other is the ninja cyborg called Gray Fox. Now, I'm not an expert in rigging, but I have rigged before, and I have a real good understanding of how, rigging works. When you're talking about taking a 3D model and building the bones of the 3D model, and then also building the controls that you have a control that moves the hand this way, and you have a control that moves the head this way, and a control that moves the torso down, and things like that. I mean, you have all these controls. The thing about this particular piece was that um, Titiana, she had a lot of controls, but I felt like it was really simplified. It wasn't anything that was more than what you really needed to to really build a believable, realistic um, performance. I think with the Gray Fox character, there were I had a lot of issues with that particular rig because I felt like there were more controls than it was really necessary. You
Mm.
know, Beautiful rig, renders great, turned out great, but there were just some challenges, because there were times where some of the controls, some kind of way they got maybe deleted some kind of way, and I had to go back and reparent, do the parent constraint in Maya, for the clavicle to the control, and oh my God. And then having just all these multiple controls for the midsection,
Yeah.
when really the Titiana rig only had like maybe, I want to say, just two controls for the midsection, making it real simple and straightforward. So I would say that one of the biggest challenges really came from just having a rig that I felt was probably a little more complicated than it had to be, but it was still great that I was able to overcome that. So
Yeah.
that's the good thing too. But I think too, like I said before, the initial challenge was finding the right characters as well, because I really wanted to have two, two African warriors. But I think had I done that, I don't know that the project would have been the same way, because I don't know that I would have called it the Saharan Defender at this point. Because
Yeah.
now the whole story kind of makes sense in that you have a cyborg that's coming in to
Yeah.
invade northern Africa, and now you have this warrior who lives there who wants to protect her land. So
Yeah.
I don't know that the story would have been the same way had I chosen two African characters. I would have just had to call it something else. But yeah, so those would be the two main things that I would say: choosing the right characters, and then overcoming the challenges of having a rig that was really, really complicated, or more complicated than it had to be.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I have to throw this up here because I totally agree with you, Amanda. I tip my hat to you. Tried rigging once, nearly lost my mind. It's not. Trust me, it's not even Maya. Just rigging in any software is just
Yeah.
it's a lot. It really is. I mean, I could I've done it a little. I don't think I would want to do it as my job being a rigger. Some people
Right.
love it, and I think that's the beauty of, I guess, animation and just this kind of space. You'll find what you really love doing. Like I said, some people love modeling. They don't love rigging. They don't
Hmm.
love editing. They just love modeling. Some people love rigging. Some people love uh, just creating mail scripts. You know, it's just you find what it is. But I agree with you, man. I it could definitely, make you pull your hair out for sure. Uh,
That's why I
doing
don't have any,
it.
for that very
That's
reason.
why I don't either. And trust me, like I said, I probably would do it. Um, like for my, and I do it for my own little things that I do. I don't think like I said, I don't think I would probably be happy sitting rigging, say for a studio, just doing that per se. I
Mhm.
love it enough to want to learn a little how to do it, but not enough to where that would be my full time job doing that for sure. But it is obviously, if you're an animator, something that you should be familiar with because you got to know how to move the bones that are in the character and the constraints that are on all the stuff that you do for sure. Um, who's been? I mean, oh, well, let's go back to this question. Like I said you wanted to have a African character in there, and we're starting to see a lot of diverse creators, a lot of diverse stories coming out. What do you? I mean, how inspired are you to start to see these characters that look like you? Um, Start and creators that are looking like you start to shine and come to the forefront and start to tell just so many other stories out there.
I love it. I think it's awesome because it's been something that really, for a while you really hadn't seen a whole lot, And so one of the things, when I'm on Instagram, I follow a lot of people of color in the industry, and there's some amazing, oh my God, there's some amazing artists out there.
Yes.
And it's really cool to see them tell their story in terms of what they do with animation. And sometimes it's not even animation, sometimes it's film. I'm going to give a guy a shout out right now, who he's probably not even watching this, but I follow him on Instagram and he follows me. His name is David Kirkman. You might want to try to get him on your
Let me
show
let me
because
jot his
he's,
name down. David Kirkman there.
yeah, that brother, I mean, he's doing some amazing stuff. And this is an animation. This is like live action.
Live action film, yeah.
And what he's doing is just so amazing. And I when I saw his work, I had to follow him. He is, amazing. And then too, gosh, I follow Black Comics Collective.
Yeah.
They produce some really amazing. I mean, they take ideas that I never would have even thought of. Like, I'll give you an example. Harriet Tubman. They have Harriet Tubman, as a warrior, and she's fighting like the zombie vampire type. I never would have thought about that. That was pretty cool. It's
Yeah.
like I never would have. Yeah, that was, and it's just cool to see what we can learn from each other. And it's very inspiring. Very
Oh man.
inspiring.
Yeah, and I tell people this all the time. There's just so many, uh, which is the beauty of the internet, and like I said, which has allowed me to have so many talented people on the show. There's just so many out there, and not even just in this country, in Africa and all over the world. There's just so many diverse um, creators out there creating some cool stories. Um, you were talking just a minute ago about Harriet Tubman. Marcus Williams, he was a guest on my show, does some amazing comic book illustrations. Him and his partner are doing something with the Tuskegee. They created this Tuskegee
I
Air.
saw that.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
yeah,
just
yeah.
super talented, writers, creators out there that are just so. That's why I'm so encouraged, and especially with this time of social media and being able to get our work out there and be seen. Um, Doing it. How do you hope to inspire the young kids that look like you coming up in the industry? Is that a dream and a goal of yours to really inspire? Just like I said, another young little black boy that's out there that's dreaming of doing the same thing you're doing.
Definitely. I mean, and I mean, I want to be the type of person, Don, where, anybody that wants to get into the industry, that wants to learn more about animation, I want to be as much of a help to them as I can be. Because when I first came, when I first started learning animation, there were some people that were real, didn't know me from a can of paint, but they were very volunteering in what they knew. He's probably not watching now. He may be watching. I don't know. Dominic Allen, very good guy. I mean, didn't know me at all, but I got his name from somebody on Facebook and said, hey, you ought to try to, talk to this guy. And I mean, I asked him question after question after question, and I know he was getting tired of me. But if you're watching now, Dominic, hey, it's paying off. So, but I just say that to say that, yeah, I mean, I would love to reach out to anybody, African American that's young, or even if they're, a little bit older, if they want to know about, well, how do I get Maya? How do I learn animation? I would love to help someone. And that's really what we need to be. It needs to be more of that,
Yeah.
because unfortunately there are people that aren't as quite as forthcoming with help. And I get it, because a lot of times on LinkedIn, someone sends you a message, and they may have the best of intentions, and you may or may not respond. But you know when you take a moment and just pour a little bit into that person, and if you, especially if you see that they're interested,
Yeah.
you're really doing that person a huge service, because maybe that's all they needed at that point, was to hear, hey, this is, go in and go to this website. You can get a 30-day trial of Maya. Go get Blender. Blender is free. You don't
Free.
even have
Yeah.
to pay anything
Yeah.
for it.
And amazing
Just
too.
little, yeah. Unreal Engine 4. You can go download that today and start practicing. They got all kind of tutorials on Unreal Engine and how you can use that. And it's a lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of people just don't know, because they don't have anybody to tell them,
Yeah.
hey, you can do this for a living. You can get a job working at a studio doing this for a living. A lot of
Yeah.
people just they don't know because they don't have anybody in their life or anybody they can look to say, hey, I know this guy, he knows about animation. I'm going to ask him, how can I learn how to do this?
Yeah.
So it's all about each one teach one, and
Yeah.
it needs to be more of that, I believe. I really do.
Which Amanda says, each one teach one for sure. And definitely, I feel another big thing is going back into these schools, especially the ones that don't have the access and the information of learning this industry and the tools that are available. And just like you said, people, other creators pouring back into them. Because I know it would have been a big thing for me to see somebody come in, when I was taking classes and, back in high school, to kind of come and speak, even in grade school when I was interested, coming in to really say, you know, yes, this is a profession that you can get into. And, this is, the journey I went on, that type of thing, as opposed to, watching it and trying to figure it out on my own, or find out information on my own. I think it really goes a long way. uh schoolism Schoolism has a course on Blender. Blender is, like I said, Blender is making some very, very big inroads. It's come a long way. I know when I started it, I wasn't too keen on it because the interface was really wonky, and not their methodology of 3D and modeling just wasn't the traditional way. But then when they finally kind of changed that around in 2.9, I think, is really when it started taking off. And I've seen some amazing, amazing stuff. Like what I was telling you earlier, I'm going to send to you. Uh, and one person did this short, just amazing work. And there's so much great free software out there that's available, whether it be 3D, whether it be editing. Like I said, Krita is another great free software out there for illustration. So I think now it's and then you got YouTube University where you can learn just about anything you want to learn, and there's
Yes.
tutorials all over the place. It's just a great time to be a content creator because of the tools that are out there, the training that is out there, and just the access to the internet. So now that you can connect with people such as yourself and other creators that are out there that you can connect with and build a relationship with. So I'm so
Definitely.
excited about this time for sure.
Definitely.
Um,
Definitely.
what do you hope? What do you hope people will uh, pull from your work? I mean, what do you hope that when people watch your work, they see and think about?
Well, the thing that I want people to really realize is that, when you get into animation, it's not something that's going, I mean, to some, it comes differently to everybody. Some people may pick things up a little quicker than others. Some people, it may take a little while. But I want people to understand that animation is something that if you're really interested in, you can do. But I would definitely say that you have to really, really allow yourself to really be dialed into it. And one of the things, I made a post on Facebook during the time when I was working on my project, the Saharan Defender. I made a post and I said something along the lines of, you know what? Let me see if I can. Well, I tell you what, I think I can. I think I can remember what I said almost verbatim. I was going to try to pull the post up now and read it to you, but I think I can remember what I said. I said something along the lines of animation is not for the faint of heart. It is something that will frustrate you at times. It will have you pulling your hair out. It will have you at times going to the point of insanity. But it is so, so rewarding when you see the end result. And you have to be, if you want to be really good at animation, you got to be all in. It is something that requires a great deal of sacrifice, I can tell you during the time when I was working on that Saharan Defender, there was a lot of Saturdays, I would be sitting here, I'd see your show coming on, and it'd be sunny outside, and I'd be watching your show, and I'd be working. And that was my life for like a long period of time. It takes a great deal of time to really push something to a point to where it looks believable. And that's what I was really going with. I was going for something that was going to really be believable, and I wanted something that I was going to be proud of for a really, really long time. And I knew that there was going to be a certain level of sacrifice and commitment and dedication that was going to go with that. If you shortcut animation, it's going to show. If you take shortcuts, and it's now, sometimes you can shortcut some things, but I'm just talking about on a fundamental level. If you try to shortcut a lot, it's going to show up in your work, and you have to go all in, and then there's the critiques. You gotta be open to critiquing, but just make sure that when you are doing your critiques, that when you're asking someone to critique your work, I would highly recommend, you ask that person to be honest, because you don't want them to tell you what you want to hear, but also make sure of the source, because everybody that critiques your work may not necessarily have the best interest at heart. So make sure that whoever's critiquing your work, make sure they want to have some kind of level in seeing you succeed. Now, if it's your boss or your manager, they have a vested interest in you to a certain degree, but at that point, hey, this is your job. You got to make sure that you're, getting the job done. And if they give you a critique, you got to do it. But I'm just talking about your peers. I'm talking about someone, whatever the case may be. You have to make sure that, because everybody, I've sent people work sometimes, and first thing they want to do is just be negative. And if you're the type of person where your ego or is easily damaged, that can be a problem, because as you're an animator and as you're learning, if you're constantly told that it's crap, it's not good, that can affect your psyche, and then you may want to just say, well, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of have an even balance of making sure that you're strong enough to handle a critique, but also just make sure that the person that you're getting the critique from is not someone that is someone that you should be really hearing from. And ask them to be honest. Don't just say, hey, tell me what I want to hear. But a good critique, I always felt like a good critique person will be able to find the good and also tell you what needs to be improved on.
Yeah.
So it's a lot that comes with it.
Yeah.
It really is.
And on that, there was some bombs dropped in what he just said.
I was waiting on that.
So, one, anything worth doing requires sacrifice. So, in order to get something, you're going to have to sacrifice. And especially if you want to take yourself to the next level, it's just, you have to sacrifice. I sacrifice time, energy, things I may want to be doing to try and put on the best show and make this the best show I can. Anything is going to require a sacrifice, giving up something. And to be good at it, you got to give up maybe hanging out with your friends or maybe going to a movie or whatever it might be. But you give up that sacrifice. And then two, you got to have thick skin. You got to have some thick skin going into
That's
this.
true.
Because with anything, you're going to have critiques. And so you got to be able to take that critique, take what serves you, and use it to make you better, for sure. So I hope you got those pearls and nuggets that were in what Demille just said, for sure. Let's throw up some more comments on here. Miss Amanda. Yeah, Udemy has some great tutorials too, and reasonable as well, for sure. Like I said, everybody that's just jumping in, we're having an awesome conversation with my man Demille here, just talking about his life, his journey. For you, what's your kind of ultimate goal of what you're wanting to create, and what are the type of stories and characters and things you want to bring to life?
I really want to build on what I did with the Saharan Defender. I think for me, I really love, action shots. So I want to do more action shots as well. You know, I want to do more action shots that are, somewhat unique and something that really, hasn't been done before. But I think too, one of the things that I told myself is that I really want to take what I know and tell stories in the next level. And this is where it really gets interesting. I want to learn how to create and animate in VR, you know.
Mm,
And Matthew is someone that I
yeah,
really admire because he's doing the motion capture, and so I want to learn motion capture, but I also want to learn how to take it to the next level and learn how to tell stories in VR,
yeah,
and become a developer for like the Oculus, because I bought an Oculus in December of last year with the expectation that that was going to be the next challenge for me to overcome, was to learn how to animate, in VR. And
yeah,
there's a few challenges with that because the Oculus is not quite as powerful as it needs to be, where you can actually animate with the Oculus. So
yeah,
you might have to get an Oculus Rift or something like that. But to answer your question, I really want to be able to tell stories in on another level, like using technology that still hadn't completely become mainstream, and that's in VR. That's
yeah,
what I really want to do. I really
yeah.
want to explore that.
No, I think, like I said, it's still young, especially getting it to the point of what Ready Player One. I think
Yeah,
that's the ultimate level of where they're trying to
definitely.
obviously push the technology, and as fast as technology is advancing and as powerful as things are starting to become, it's not going to be long before it does get to that point. Um, but I agree with you. I love just how the art is really pushing the technology, and how the creators are really using the technology to tell these stories. So that's what I love about the industry. It just it pushes it, and um, uh, I think John Lasseter said it once. Art art pushes technology, and technology creates art. Pushes art.
Hmm.
It's like this dual kind of thing, to where the creator is gonna try and push the limits of the tools that he uses, which forces the software to really step up its game in what it's creating, which is why Pixar is so big. I mean, they really push the developers to get the
Hmm.
idea
Hmm.
that they had in their head out. So I think
And
VR is definitely the next step of where it's going to go.
so basically, in essence, what they're doing is they're using the computer as now a brush for their canvas versus just something that we're just typing on and typing in data. The computer is now, an extension of what a painter would use for their, painting or their
Oh
canvas
yeah,
or something like that.
I don't, and
Hmm.
I'm gonna have to put her name in. I forget her name, but she's a VR painter, and she's always posting on LinkedIn, but does some amazing paintings, and I'm talking like old world style paintings, and just amazing painting in VR, and how
Hmm.
she creates them. I'll have to put the information in the show notes for you guys to check out. But she's really, like I said, it just fascinates me the way creators are using the tools that are out there to get their idea out. And I think that's the biggest thing about a creator. They're all tools, whether it's a pencil, a computer, VR set. It's the idea and the creator that really pushes, well, how can I use this tool? And that's why I tell people, don't get so hung up on the software or tool that you use, because it's just that. It's just, what are you as a creator getting out there and the tool that you use, because obviously you use a lot of different softwares, and animators use a lot of different softwares to
Mhm.
get their animation out there. Whether it's a director, they use a lot of different editing softwares, coloring softwares to get their film out there. So they're all just tools in a toolbox. But the real gem behind it is the creator that's using the tool, the master that's using that tool to sculpt their idea.
Exactly. I think about it from this perspective. I used to do photography years ago along my art journey. And, you know, I've always, one of the things that I've learned about photo, even though I don't really do photography anymore, but I think the principle still applies even in other aspects. You know, you can remember how back in the day, and I think they still make them, you know, the little disposable cameras that you
Yeah,
can go and buy.
yeah, bye, yeah,
A good photographer can take that disposable camera and they can go outside and they can make the most magnificent
yeah,
portrait that you've ever seen. You don't have to have a fancy DSLR. And don't get me wrong, you can do some amazing stuff with
yeah,
that,
yeah,
but it's really the person behind that camera that's really going to help tell that story in a way that only he can do it. It's not going to be, you know, the camera. The camera can do a lot of things, but it's the person behind that camera. And in the
yep.
same way, it's like you don't necessarily have to have the fanciest equipment to do
No,
animation. You know, you
I've
can,
seen some amazing films done on the iPhone that
yeah.
directors have done. It's the artisan behind the tool that they're using
Hmm.
and getting it. So definitely, I agree with you there, Demille. Again, if you're just joining in, we're having just an amazing conversation with my man Demille for sure. Um, what a couple of final questions. Like I said, we've been kind of, we're hitting on our 1.5 hour mark there, and definitely want to be respectful of your time. And again, um, so appreciative of you coming on, sharing your work, sharing your journey, and sharing your ideas for sure, and being a part of the Color of Motion family. Um, what advice would you give a young, or somebody that's looking to get into the industry? What would be the advice that you would tell them?
I would tell them, you know, if you want to get into the animation industry, definitely don't give up because you're going to face a lot of challenges and a lot of obstacles. But at the same time, when you know that it's something that you really want to do, then go after it with everything that you have. And don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it because you know you're going to have naysayers, you're going to face critiques, and sometimes the critiques may sting a little bit, but you got to use that as a way to motivate yourself to say, especially if you know that, you know, and I'm not trying to be super religious, but if God put a dream and a vision inside of you and you want to bring that to fruition in the way that you know that you can, then you have to really really go after it.
Yeah,
And it's possible. It's not easy getting into the industry, and you know that's something that I know that that I'm going to definitely accomplish. There's one of the cool things about this project that I'm happy about is that the um, the Saharan Defender. I've gotten some calls for, you know, people that want to
yeah,
talk to me about jobs, and
yeah,
so you know it lets you know that, you know, when you do the work and you just keep at it and keep, and I've been on this journey for a while. I mean, you know, I've really been on this journey for quite some time, and I just firmly believe that in my heart there's nothing else that I want to do. And so, you know, I'll say this. I was not going to say this, but I think I am going to say this.
say
Um,
it, say
yeah, I'm going to say it
it.
because the truth is, you know, I mean, it's it may help someone who's in a similar situation, you know, a lot of times in life, we're going through things that are, maybe we're working on a job that is unsatisfying, or maybe not necessarily unsatisfying, but just when you know that God put something in you to do more, to go to another level. And you come to a place in life where you say, okay, this is something that I want to do, but it's taking a really, really long time for me to get to this level. And you see time going, and time waits for nobody. That's just the reality. Time goes, it is fleeting, and you have to take full advantage of every opportunity that you have. And so, one of the biggest decisions that I had to make in my life was, do I want to be comfortable, you know, great paying job, perks, benefits, great company, but not living up to my full potential? Or do I want to really see how far I can go? If I know that God has put a dream inside of me that I'm going to be a professional animator, I'm going to get into the animation industry, then I know that, number one, I trust God and I trust everything that He's ever revealed to me. He's never, and I'm not trying to turn this into church, but
No,
He
no.
has never left me. He's never forsaken me. And I prayed about this for a long, long time, because I knew that I wanted to really get in the industry. And I was like, I need to make a bold move. I need to really, really make a bold move. So, for a few years, I had been debating about resigning from where I used to work. And there were different obstacles that came up. Back in 2020, March of 2020, I was in the process of making that decision, because at that time, I was in my final semester at Academy of Art University. And I was just thinking to myself, well, gosh, this job has really carried me for quite a while. And now I'm at the end game for me, which is, using the job as a tool to, get through school and get my, degree and everything. And so now that I'm here, maybe I should really consider going all in for what I really want to do. And then the pandemic started. The pandemic in March of 2020 really kicked into full gear. And I was like, well, gosh, maybe I should just stick around here for a little while, since the world is about to explode. And so I went ahead and waited, and I stayed, and, and I just still felt like, good job, but I just felt stuck. I didn't feel like I was growing into my purpose that God called me to walk in. And I felt it so strongly. And so fast forward to, I guess, October. No, let's fast forward to, well, yeah, let's fast forward to October of 2021. I got to a place to where I knew that I wanted to make a bold decision. And so I prayed to God to show me a sign. And I felt signs. I felt like I had been given signs before, confirmations of what I needed to do, but I wanted more confirmations. And so around the end of October, I gave myself 30 days when I really wanted to make a final decision on what I wanted to do. And I wanted to hear from God and what I wanted to, on the direction that I wanted Him to lead me on. And I remember this, Don, so clearly. I walked through my neighborhood getting exercise in. By the way, for those artists out there, if you want to ever get inspired, go for a walk. You will get some of the best ideas and greatest inspiration when you're walking.
Yeah.
And so this one particular day, I was going for a walk, and it was in that 30-day period when I told myself, I need to hear from God on this to make a move. And so I went for a walk during that 30-day period, and I said, Lord, I just ask you right now to just lead me and guide me. Give me a sign. Give me a final confirmation. And as I was walking through my neighborhood, I got this peace that you just cannot understand. It was a calmness that came all the way around me. And at that moment, I knew exactly what I had to do. And so I made the decision to turn in my resignation. And I left a solid, good job, you know. But let me tell you something. Do not cry a river over me. God has been so good. God has blessed me in ways that one day I'll tell everything. I'm not going to tell everything. That's a lot right there. But there's other
That's for
things that I
part
could.
two when we
Yeah,
have
yeah,
them
yeah,
back
yeah,
on for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. But when I tell you my lights are still on, I still got a roof over my head. God has been good. God has been good. And so right now, I'm all in. I'm all into my dream. I'm all into this journey. Um, I'm all in it, and I'm in it to win it. And
Yeah.
and and here's the thing. Let me tell you something else too. Joshua Leonard. I don't know. I follow Joshua and he follows me, and he may or may not be watching this, but if he's watching, I just got to tell you, brother, you have inspired me in more ways than you can imagine, because I remember he was on your show, not the first episode, but the anniversary when he
Anniversary
came back.
episode. Yeah, yeah.
And he said, man, I want this. I want this more than you can imagine. And it was during that time when I was working on my project, and I was waking up at, before I start, well, when I was working at the time, there were mornings, my shift started at 6 a.m. I'd get up at 3 a.m. just to get a little bit of animation work in so that I can,
Yeah.
because I knew once my shift started, I'm not going to have that time to focus. So my thing was, let me get 3 hours of animation work in on this project so that I can at least get some kind of, head start. And then there were mornings where I woke up, and so when I made the decision to leave my job, I stayed in. I mean, I treated this project like a full-time job, starting at like 8:30 a.m., sometimes working until 10 or maybe even midnight. So when Joshua said, how bad do you want it? I'm like, I want this really bad. And I want this to the point to where I'm either going to get in the animation industry, or I'm going to die trying doing it. And
Yeah.
that's just the way it is. I'm all in it. There's no other way for me. There's
Yeah.
no other way. And there is something to be said about following your dream and following your passion and feeling as though you're at a place where you're stuck. You have to follow your dream. And I'm not trying to be religious, but for those who believe in God, when God speaks and he gives you a confirmation, listen, go for it. Don't wait.
Yeah. Yeah. Now,
You can drop another bomb,
I have to drop some bombs in there because it was just a lot packed in there.
Yeah.
And I so agree with you. Um, I'm like you. I believe in God, but for those that don't, Creator, the universe, whoever you choose to call them, somebody that's something that's bigger than you. I believe everybody has that thing inside them that's put inside them, their passion, their desire, their goal. It's on you to see it through or not and make it come to fruition. I think a lot of people don't because of the fear of failing, of whatever it might be, keeping them from doing it. And I will say this that I do know, and that any successful person will tell you, your success is on the other side of that fear. So you're going to have to go through whatever fear it is that you to get to the success that you want. So it's up to you to decide, well, do I stay in this box, you know, and may be happy, may have a happy life, but not truly fulfilled in what I'm doing and feeling. And you'll feel that unfulfillment. If it's not something that you're truly happy at, you can make all the money in the world. There's still going to be something that's empty inside you. But to get to that thing that truly drives you, is you're passionate about, you're going to have to step out of that box and you're going to have to go through that fear. It may be a job that you may have to step away from, and that fear of, well, do I have the bills? Am I going to have the money to pay for these bills, or whatever it might be? Your success is on the other side of fear. And any successful person will tell you that they've had to go through their fears to get to that success that they want. So I applaud you, Demille, for one, listening to the voice, because most people don't. And most people that don't are the ones that are gonna, I won't say be naysayers, but they're gonna be the ones that wanna not want to keep you from taking that step out. Some may do it because they love you, but that's just the box and the environment that they're used to. Some are going to tell you this because they're just haters and they're not going to want to see you succeed. But
That's true.
follow your own dream, follow what's in your heart. And most people, again, most successful people would say they would rather die knowing that they tried and failed than not tried at all. So
Amen.
take
Amen.
that with what you want, people. But I do hope you go back through the ones that the viewers that may catch this on the replay. Please watch it to the end because there's a lot of great nuggets in there. The newer ones, the younger ones that are coming up and thinking about it, keep that in mind because it doesn't matter whether it's animation, photography, whatever it is that you want to do, if you want to do it and it's something that you're passionate about, don't let anybody dissuade you from it, even your family and friends. Just know that this is what makes you happy. And you are the one that's got to live your life, not your mother, not your father, brother, sister, family, friends, or whatnot. You're the one that's got to live your life. So be happy in the life that you choose to live and just know that you got to step outside of the box that we've all been in to get to the success that you want. So, like I said, Demille, I applaud you for taking that step. I know big things are coming, and you did the biggest step was put your work out there. That's when opportunities start coming. You're not going to get any opportunities if you don't put your work out there to be seen, critique and all. You, you take the criticism that comes and take what applies to you, throw out what doesn't work for you, and that's where you'll start to see opportunities open up. So I know big opportunities are coming down the pipe for you, Demille. Like I said, I'm super excited. One, to have you on the show. Two, there may be an opportunity when we work together on a project or something like that. So that's why it's all about building relationships and building friendships. And I want to thank you so much for that, Demille, is being a friend of mine because I know that that's where we both grow, for sure.
Amen.
Everybody, we've had the best time for sure, and it's definitely going to be a part two because Demille's going to come
Oh
back
yeah.
and share all the success that's coming his way for sure. Before we close this out, I want to throw up some more comments for sure. This, I don't know whether this is a man or woman, so I'm not going to say. Sun People, Beauty, Big 100 for sure. Mr. Kevin Bowens, I appreciate you tuning in there, brother, through the show. Hope you got some value out of it and some fun as well. Well, I try and make it entertaining as well as valuable for sure. Miss Amanda Price, I appreciate you sticking around and enjoying the show as well. People, definitely people will try and talk you out of your dreams for sure. And there are some dream killers out there. But again, there are some people, and it's mostly family and friends, that are going to try and tell you how to live your life from their perspective. So if they're afraid to go out of the box, they're going to be afraid for you to go out of the box as well. Don't let that stop you from doing it. Not that they're doing it out of hatred or malice to you. They're just doing it because that's all they know. And they haven't taken the chance to step out on their own dreams. So, uh, whatever it is, follow your heart and follow your path that God has laid out for you or your creator or your universe, whoever you choose to call it. I choose to call him God, but whoever it is, they put a gift in you, but it's your responsibility to find out and take that gift to its fullest fruition for sure. Uh, Everybody, uh, make sure you connect. Make sure that you connect with Demille. You can definitely check him out on all his social channels for sure. And all this stuff is going to be in the show notes on the YouTube channel, so you'll be able to connect with him there. But definitely make sure that you take the time, reach out to him, check out more of his work. Like I said, big opportunities are coming his way. I can't wait to have him back on the show and highlight just the great things that we know will be coming out for sure. Again, make sure that you jump on over to the YouTube channel. Like I said, all these notes and information will be in the description. I appreciate everybody that's been a part of the show. Come on and supported all the guests. We've had some great engagement today for sure. Demille, if you could hang out in the green room for just a minute while I close out the show, I would definitely appreciate it for sure. But everybody, please help me thank my guest and friend and good friend, Demille. He's such a faithful viewer of the show as well. I appreciate the support that you've given to the show so much, Demille. I can't express it enough. But please, everybody, like I said, please help me thank my guests for being on the show there. Man, this has been an amazing episode. Like I said, if you haven't stuck around to the end, go back, watch it, because Demille dropped some serious bombs that you definitely need to check out for sure. Miss Kristen, thank you for being the teacher that you are. Like I said, teachers are the salt of the earth. They're the ones that definitely, outside of parents, help to shape the direction of our lives for sure. So I want to thank you for that as well. Miss Melissa, appreciate you so much tuning in to the episode. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Sun People, definitely appreciate you sticking around and checking out the episode. Gonna have to connect with you. And like I said, I appreciate all my viewers for supporting the show, supporting the channel, and just making it such an enjoyable experience for me as well. Like I said, make sure that you tune in next week, because next week's going to be another great show. Man, I'm just, like I said, I'm so honored to have so many great guests on the show and connect with so many great people and friends. Next week is going to be no exception. Mr. Dario Filomeno, production artist and assistant with 20th Television. He's going to be on the show. Definitely want you to check out the episode, because we're going to have a lot of fun for sure. Like I said, we're coming to a wrap, and I want to thank you for making this such a great episode as well. As always, I hope you have a great Saturday, great rest of the weekend, and a productive week. Make sure that you do. Make sure that I'll see you same bat time, same bat channel next week. Have a great one, everyone.